In the January 1997 issue of Byte magazine, the article's title is The State of Linux. Okay, so author Jim Moore starts out, imagine a Unix server supporting a dozen users connected via serial terminals. Now add a few more users connected across the network using X window. Finally, let's add a handful of Windows PCs that use the Unix machine as a file and print server. If you think that the machine can't handle this many operations, just add another processor and let the OS perform symmetrical multiprocessing, abbreviated SMP, to distribute the load. If I were to say that all this is available for free, including the source code, you might think I was joking. If I were to add C and C++ compilers, a text processing system, a spreadsheet, and a web server to the deal, you might begin to question my sanity. If I were to tell you that most of this software smorgasbord has been available for years, you might begin to question your own sanity and wonder why you haven't checked it out yet. It's called Linux, and it's a Unix-like 32-bit OS that supports all the utilities, tools, and other features found in commercial Unix products. The latest kernel, version 2.0, provides enhancements such as Java and SMP support, making it better than some commercial Unix offerings. The best thing about Linux is that it's essentially free. However, for this same reason, many people question its legitimacy. Added to the fact that Linux started as a college project for or by Linus Torvalds, it seems only natural that it would not be something you'd want to run your business on. But as we'll see, the most logical question Linux poses is why not? Running Linux. Linux runs on most major processors, such as various species of the x86, the PowerPC family, the Alpha series, and MIPs chips. It supports most major hardware peripherals with some caveats. Typically, the developers of Linux hardware drivers are Linux users themselves. If someone wants to get a peripheral to work, he or she either writes the driver or waits for someone else to write one. The positive side of this situation is that since a developer uses the device and ends up with the same bugs as you, problems are quickly fixed, usually in a matter of days or weeks. Another advantage to this arrangement is that the person who actually uses the particular peripheral, again typically the developer, writes the documentation. The negative side of this arrangement is that older peripherals won't garner much devoted support. So finding a reliable driver for vintage hardware, such as the old CD-ROM drive or network card, can be problematic. Furthermore, the person best suited to write device drivers may be ill-equipped to write clear and user-friendly documentation. My thoughts exactly. The documentation of all commercial Linux distributions appears in the form of how-to files. As its name implies, a how-to describes how to do something. This can be software related, such as the firewall how-to, that describes how to configure an internet firewall, or hardware related, such as the CD writer how-to, that describes how to get certain CDR devices running on your system. It is important to check if there is a how-to for a specific piece of hardware in case it describes problems someone has already dealt with. A good example is the CD writer how-to. Although there exists a program, CD-Write, that operates CDR drives, not all CDR drives work with it. The how-to describes how to get the standard SCSI driver to work with specific CDR drives. Computer-controlled uninterruptible power supplies, UPSs, are another example. Without any direct support from the manufacturers, users have gotten UPSs to work with Linux. Their experiences are documented in the UPS how-to. Many of the Linux hardware problems are due to the peripheral being simply too new to the Linux scene, so no driver exists. Other times, changes to the kernel may cause problems to specific drivers. For help, a glance at the Yahoo webpage is a good place to start. For example, when checking the driver status for 3COM EtherLink 3 Vortex Ethernet cards, I was able to quickly locate patches for the 2.0 kernel. The table titled Selected Linux Sites of Interest, I'll show that in a moment, shows other useful websites. There are also sites that provide information in German, Swedish, Czech, French, Italian, Russian, and Spanish. Perhaps the single most important how-to is the hardware how-to. This is the Linux hardware compatibility list. It describes not only the hardware that is supported, but provides tips and URLs for hardware that isn't. Supported means only that the standard distribution has drivers for that particular set of hardware. It's always a good idea to check the hardware how-to for a specific peripheral before attempting a Linux installation. For more information on the latest drivers and ports, you should check out the Linux Documentation Project homepage. Right, I doubt this is accurate anymore. I'll go ahead and just highlight it right here, sunsite.unc.edu/MDW. But here's that picture I was talking about earlier, selected Linux distributors. These are the companies, and so you'll recognize Red Hat probably. Here's Debian GNU Linux. And these, there's SUSE GmbH, but it says SUSE Linux here. But yeah, you have the Linux type, the website, and some emails. Aside from provisioning a full version of various LDP documents or books, this website is a treasure chest of links to the latest drivers and patches, as well as to companies that provide Linux software and complete systems. Running with Linux. If you're asking what good is all this if there is no software to run on it, the answer to that is there is. Besides supporting all the programs that come standard with the Unix system, Linux supports all the network protocols that Unix users have grown accustomed to, like TCP/IP, NFS, and HTTP. In addition, there is a wider range of free applications, software such as text processing systems, a spreadsheet, and a database. If these are insufficient, a wide range of commercial software is available. Not every software product runs perfectly on Linux the first time. Most non-commercial Linux software is available as source code that you compile on the host system. This increases the likelihood that it will work correctly. However, check the program's accompanying README file that describes what steps to take for specific platforms. Like the hardware, many software products have their own how-to. The Java how-to describes the steps necessary to get Java working on your system. Java requires support for executable and linking format binaries. This is abbreviated as ELF, which is not available prior to the 1.2.13 kernel. In addition, there are known problems with Java for specific versions of Linux. A common issue with Linux is its compatibility with other systems. While its interoperability with other dialects of Unix is taken for granted, its connectivity to Windows-based PCs may be a point of concern. Linux works fine as an internet server, but can it offer the file and printer services that other Unix dialects can? It can if you have Samba running. Samba is a software package that provides the session message block SMB functions required to support Windows for workgroups, Windows 95, Windows NT, and LAN Manager. In fact, any client that supports SMB can access a Linux system running Samba. The great thing about Samba is that it works both ways, so your Linux system can also access other systems such as NT. So for those of you out there reading along, this is 1997, don't forget. One of the biggest arguments against Linux has been that of support. Because Linux was not developed by a single entity, there is no 800 number you can call. However, Linux is bundled and distributed by a number of companies, as shown in the table, selected Linux distributors. If you purchase one of these bundles, you are often provided technical support on basic issues such as installation. Many companies do nothing other than Linux support. Some companies, such as Workgroup Solutions, not only provide complete systems, including their own version of Linux, they offer consulting services as well. Finally, Linux has developed a very large army of followers, able to help since they have experienced the same problems you have. Alright, our last section is titled Industrial Strength OS. The most compelling aspect of Linux is that it typifies the whole Unix mentality. Unix is a system of choice. You choose how to configure the system and what functions the system has. If you want to implement it on a low-end PC or a high-end workstation, you can. If you need real-time processing, that's available as well. Linux takes this one step further. Not only can you change parameters and configuration as you wish, you can change the basic behavior of the operating system if you need to because you have the source code. Although Linux doesn't yet run on mainframes, it's just a matter of time. Since Linux runs on every major computer architecture, the odds are that there is a Linux system that fits your needs. Because of the amount of software and support available, Linux has found a place right alongside Unix OSs from even the largest vendors. So that was this article by Jim Moore. He's a system and network administrator for Kaiser Compressors in Coburg, Germany. He has spent 6 years providing technical support for SEO Unix and is the author of SEO Companion, which was published in 1996. All right, thanks for watching.